Okay, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to episode 2 of the Tide Pod podcast, where I am joined here with none other than the amazing Evelyn Bailey. So I had to write this down because it's rather incredible. So just bear with me here. We're gonna start. I'm gonna introduce her because you got to know what this woman's all about. She is a well-versed professional modern visual artist. She's using both traditional and digital mediums to create captivating artwork that will leave you, in my personal opinion, in awe. Some of this woman's artwork is just, it's astonishing. She's got 20 years experience in various techniques and mediums and advanced studies. She's a creative director at the new Global Award-winning light show for the city of Cambridge. She's also a member of the Arts and Culture Committee for Niagara Falls. And she's the founder of Evolution. It's a program designed to inspire people to activate their genius mind through art, as well as the creator of the Evolution Calendar, where entrepreneurs and global leaders are highlighted. Now, Evelyn joins us today, and she's going to share a powerful message that I believe can save the world.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for joining me today. I know it was pretty short notice, but I wouldn't have had anybody else fill spot 2 in the Tide Pod podcast, so thank you for coming.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Born twice as number 2 as well, as I'm a twin.
Oh, yes. So. Okay. So, all right. So it's perfect.
Yes.
It's perfect. Yeah. So, I mean, there's lots that I want to talk about today, but I know that with all of that, I mean, there's tons of questions I have too. I'd like to go back to the 20 years ago to how you began this journey, like how you got to where you are today.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, I wanted to just say thank you for inviting me on the show as the number 2, number 3, 4, 5. It would have been at any point the same honor, simply because I think it's so important to bring these conversations to life. Mm-hmm. And so we've had many conscious conversations in the past, and sometimes it's just really beautiful because they're worth sharing. Mm-hmm. And so to be here and to share this message that, yes, I do as well, I believe it will save the world, is just completely an honor, because it takes people like you to believe in the art, which means that whatever I'm doing is working, and it's certainly getting the message across. So thank you for having me on the show.
You're welcome. Very welcome.
So if we're going to take it to the beginning, in terms of where I acknowledged being an artist, let's say, and then decided that would be.
How did you decide that this was your lane, this was the path that you wanted to take?
Well, I love this question because it really goes back to when I was a child, and when I used to play. Just the playing and the creativity and the imagination that would come from this, from being a child, was completely curated from being a really high observer of my environments. So the more I went out and played and traveled and did things, I started to notice at a very young age that my artwork was expanding with ideas, and what I was able to draw was becoming very much 100% in alignment to what I had experienced. And so I've always been just amazed at how art really brings out the ideas in our minds. And at a very young age, I was constantly drawing and bringing ideas to life. And I realized it was really easy to be understood, because I would draw the way I would feel, I would draw what was on my mind, and so it was very easy to understand where I was and to connect with me in that sense. Mm-hmm. So this power, this connection, and this sort of observation of life, it never left me, even going into high school. So, when I get into high school, we're all discovering who we are. We don't know what we want. We're seeing new references every day of a version that we may want to be. And it's really difficult to sort of align yourself to sticking to who you are, sticking to the thing that you love most, and not being influenced to change that for any other reason other than if you desire to change or to evolve. Mm-hmm. And so at a very young age, I just noticed, in high school, that the more I was able to draw, the more I was able to express what I learned through art, the more I was able to realize that I really understood what I was learning. And so this connection to art and to my life, just everything that I did, was drawing, whether I was learning math, science, any subject I would draw. And I just remember people asking, what are you going to do when you get out of high school? Because they saw that I was just a passionate artist. Mm-hmm. I used to do other friends' homework just because I loved doing art. Mm-hmm. So if someone wanted, to get by with getting the homework done, I would certainly take it on, because for me, it was just drawing something that I love. Mm-hmm. So I really understood that no matter what I did, it was going to be art, whether it was a famous painter, or at the time I had picked up this concept of working for Disney because I fell in love with animation movies. Mm-hmm. And so because I had this fascination with animation and just the world of your imagination, the world of play, I knew for a fact that I would stay there for the rest of my life. simply because the emotions that come out when you're in that are just joy, love, happiness. And it is a sense of, it's a sense of happiness. You just feel really good when you're in a creative state. And I don't know who can deny that. And so growing up, that's kind of my journey. It was just art was a huge part of my education. And then it wasn't until, I would say, 3-4 years ago where art actually started serving me in ways that it was like saving my life. So when you think about the changes that we go through growing up, especially when you become a parent, let's say, and you can relate because you're a father. And so when you become a parent, you're constantly finding ways in your mind to solve a problem that is going to either arise in the future or that is happening in the moment. And so the more I started encountering myself in hardship, I mean, like courts, you know how it's just a lot of battling, which is battles of the egos that can really create a sense of, you know, where if you're feeling a sense of defeat, it's almost hard to get yourself back up. And that's when I started finding that the only thing that brought me up was my capacity to imagine the best case scenario. And when I started focusing on the best case scenario, I started thinking of the second best case scenario and the third best case scenario, and to the point where there almost was no bad case scenario, because in my mind I wouldn't even focus on that. Now I would acknowledge it to say, okay, this could be the worst case if I don't do that. And that's where I was able to navigate, you know, my life in times where you can become, it's really hard to focus. So art was just a way of staying focused, of using the power of your imagination. That's what I stand for, is the power of the imagination will solve any problem and will give you a visual download of a life that you actually from the heart would desire, that you, and then from there you can go for it.
Yeah, I like how listening to you speak and saying how art saved your life. Just hearing that, initially you think, well, how? By like painting a picture, by drawing, but no, you're saying how you were able to focus and use your imagination, not necessarily to turn that into a visual piece, but to visualize in your mind, using that creative imagination that, look, this is, you know, I'm going to focus on, you know, the possibility of possibilities rather than, you know, the disadvantages and the things that come from the opposite of that. So I think for those listening, like I was excited, and I let people know that I was having you in today, to how art can save your life. So when you say something like that, I mean, that's a bold statement to make. And I think people might be like, you know, like we've discussed before we went on the air, is that, you know, people like may think that they're not creative or they're not talented. They don't have the skill to draw. And maybe you can explain how art is more than just visual art.
Over the time, seeing how art is just the practice of the creative faculty. So you're just practicing using a creative side of your brain, which is solving the logical problems. So being in this state and being able to say, okay, I can visually see that outcome. I could visually see where I'm going to go if I stay in this sort of solution-oriented mode. And I find that art becomes multiple ways of exercising the creative imagination. And I'm like, as I'm speaking, I see my mind going in 5 directions with this answer, because there's so many layers to how I feel that it can serve people in their life. And it comes to on a spiritual level, it's on an emotional level, it's on a physical level, you know, because when we're not feeling good, we're not in a state of wanting to create. So in order to create your ultimate masterpieces, which doesn't mean the best painting that's going to go in like the next Van Gogh, but it's that state of where the flow is going through you, the ideas are channeling through you, your thoughts are being processed. It's blocked when we're just physically crippled. So art covers so many components of being that I feel that it covers health. So how it saved me is like I said, in order to channel my best ideas, I can't be full on a bloated stomach with negative thinking minds. I'm in a state of complete, you know, optimism. I'm looking at limitless ideas. It's like no limit to anything I think of. And I find that in a fear-based society, when you have a mindset where you can see outcomes that are not, like the result is not because of fear, it's because of true like faith and belief. And yes, whether you can see it or not, there's still a sense of it connects you to your heart. So I find that on a visual level, art connects you to the heart. On a physical level, the expression is a release. It's an outlet, right? It's like a tss, 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 when you're just letting that air slowly go out of, it's like a little bit of release so that you don't build up all this tension.
Yeah.
So you're literally drafting all this energy onto a paper, onto a canvas, into a song, into an instrument. It's any act of creativity is allowing for you to release the anxiety, the stress. And I'm a very high energy person. Like I'm feeling like even now, I feel so bottled up because it's been over a week and a half since I've actually expressed and I've let it out. So I feel that art on so many levels, physiologically, mentally, spiritually, it balances you. And it creates a sense of, I guess the biggest thing I could say is that because you have a high level of concentration through the art practice, you're most present in those moments, which means that you're connected to yourself and you're connected to the divine. You're in the most still state of creativity, or of stillness, let's say. And so in so many ways, it can create a sense of calmness for people, release, all these kind of lack of, it releases confusion. You know, if you actually illustrate all your ideas on paper, you'll quickly identify the ones worth focusing on. And in that focus, you'll focus on the details, which means you're manifesting more visually what you want because you're focused, you're hyper-focused on it. And so I just find that in so many ways, you know, even people who want to connect with their children, you throw a little bit of art and creativity into their life, sprinkle a little bit of creativity into their reality, and they have a free expressed self, so they're more healthier because they're releasing. The adult is feeling good because they're connecting with their child. So you're having a sense of dialogue that is not requiring a high intellectual conversation. You know, it's literally an expression through the creative outlets that a suppression of that is a mindset. Something is telling you not to create. And that's what we want to talk about. Like, we want to figure out, well, why do you hold yourself back from creating?
Yeah.
What's the thing holding you back? Because you're the one holding yourself back from taking that and doing it. And so you realize that the more people navigate through art, their mental health is taken care of. Because they're self-actualizing, they're self-recognizing, the patterns within them are coming out. So, yeah, it's a very long answer.
No, I like that, and I'm trying to think of what it's so. I think what I'm trying to wrap my head around is a lot of people when, like I said, when they think of art, they think of the visual aspect, and I like what you said about the kids and connecting. So, at what point or how would you suggest, or where does the breakthrough come? Like, I know you do workshops, and I know you have people there, and they're, you know, you're leading them with, you know, in the front of the class and to express themselves with a painting of some sort. But how is it that would cause them to have that breakthrough where, okay, I don't need to be painting masterpieces, but this is going to help me tap into my imagination and my creative to navigate through just everyday life.
Yeah. For kids, there's going to be a different answer for children than there is for their adults.
Yes.
Because for children, the breakthrough, they'll never have to have this aha moment if art is a part of the reality, if it becomes who they are. If we instill a value to the art in their life, they're going to do it. They're going to use it. They're going to play music as a need to, like the same as working out. You're going to go use creativity at the same level as meditation, as working out. So for kids, I hope that we're creating the future where we don't have to say, oh, your breakthrough through art comes because you didn't know art before. But for the people who are now connected to me in this reality, in our generation and the ones before us, it's only because I've heard the same thing my whole life that the breakthrough comes when someone goes through the point where they say, I'm not an artist, I'm not an artist, I'm not an artist. There's a reason they believe that. There's a reason that they actually believe that. And it never came because they actually thought of it themselves. It came because school created a competition mentality when it came to art. So because those young kids who didn't want to they don't want to be the best. They don't care for the grades. The value that art is created in high schools is very competitive, which is why people tap out.
Well, I did that. I did just
They
that.
tap out.
I dropped out of I think grade 10 and grade 11 art class because I was I wasn't allowed to express myself freely.
No,
I had
you
to
had
put
limitations.
the mug here, and I had to draw that with the shadow and the
Yeah.
light here. I understood that we were learning techniques.
Yes.
But I was like, this isn't how I don't want to draw a vase with these stupid
Exactly.
flowers in it. Like, so I dropped out of that class, and if I didn't, the idea that you could actually get a failing mark for something that you created,
There you go.
in that class,
Yes.
it was like that. I
This
was
is-
out. I was like, peace,
And
like I
this
want
is-
nothing to do with it.
But this is the breakthrough moment. The moment that you remembered why you stopped, when you connect back to the person who was before they quit, is when they realize, holy crap, I love this. Why did I ever stop?
Yeah.
Why did I stop drawing? I used to love drawing. And then the person goes to the moment where in usually in my classes, or even if it's on my online webinar, anytime I offer an experience or an exercise that someone goes through and they broke through the limiting belief of, I can't draw a circle perfectly and I can't draw this. And I'm just like, I get over that. And I say, this isn't about skill.
Yeah.
Just a circle is a circle. And I'm going to get that even if you draw it perfectly or not. I'm going to say, hey, there's a circle.
There's a circle.
Nobody's confused about what we see. It's there. It's obvious. It's, oh, it's not a perfect circle. Perfection is only the desire from an artist who wants to literally give you a very detailed idea. If I'm trying to communicate with you in art, I need to know details so you get every single message. But if I'm just like, hey, I love sunny days, that illustration is not hard to do for me to say, you like sun, you like beaches, you like sunny days.
Yeah.
So when we connect to that part of that conversation that young person had when they said, I don't want to do this. This isn't for me. I don't want to be good. Or, someone's showing off their artwork and the person's like, I'm not as good as that person. That person's getting all the attention. It's that same mentality that is in sports and is in every other way that we've been raised to think that we have to be the best in order to do it. And so that's what people go through when they go to the breakthrough. They say, holy crap, it doesn't matter anymore if I'm good or not. I need to draw because I need to use my creative imagination to solve the problems in my life because my life depends on it. It's not about being good or not. It's about, can I get myself out of that situation? If in a heartbeat I had to find a solution, if you don't ever practice in a creative thinking, it's not going to come up when you need it.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It's like if you never do push-ups, try getting yourself off the ground if your life needed it. It's not going to happen. The only thing that might happen is adrenaline, but that is going to abuse the body.
Yeah.
So how do we do it naturally? How do you do it in a way that every day you solve these problems creatively? Well, do something, doodle, draw, color, paint, sing, laugh, go do something, dance, do anything. And here's where, so that's the breakthrough moment is when people go, oh my God, why did I ever tell myself that I don't love to do this? It's not hard, and I can.
Yeah.
I can do this is the breakthrough. Because up until that moment, they said, I'm not an artist. I can't draw stick people if my life depended on it.
Yeah.
I hear that every single day, and that's when I found, holy crap, there's a problem here.
Yeah.
There's a real problem with how people perceive art, and this is why there's no value in art. And if we go back to the original idea of what art is the foundation of any society. You don't have, no leader can demonstrate a destination without a visual map.
Yeah.
It's just not, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Words were created to divide people. That's why you have languages. That's why you have Patois, and you have all these different languages. So if you want to think of how do we connect, it's not with words, although we've learned to use some of it. But it's, if we think of the language, it's masculine, it's not feminine. That's why we don't express authentically. So when it goes to when it goes to just understanding that art was the foundation of how we communicate. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah.
Art is the foundation of how we exist. And without it, try to survive, try to have function in a society.
Yeah.
And now it's almost like, so why do we devalue art now? Why do people think I should cheat, I shouldn't pay this much for the art, or I shouldn't take classes? There's no value to the art anymore. It's because of that. Nobody wants to do it. Everyone thinks it's to be good to make money. And no one understands it's the same thing as a mindful practice. It's a language. If you learn it, you will communicate with everyone in the world better than any language can. Period. And I know for a fact, I have the confidence to know that I can go to any country. God forbid I need for something if I needed to save my life and give them a sign, I would draw it. And I know for a fact I can communicate. I have the confidence to say there is no limitation to any communication unless they're blind.
Yeah.
Unless they're blind.
Yeah.
So children, adults, we all have the same
But even then,
connection.
you could, if this was raised, you'd be able to feel.
Exactly. 100%.
No,
And
I like that. I like that because, just imagining that being in a foreign country and needing to communicate and nobody speaks your language and you just, maybe you can't write it because they don't speak your language.
Nope.
You could turn that visual that idea into something that they can visually translate.
100%. And so that's just returning to the power that art has to communicate, to connect all of us. And so in a world that's so disconnected, in a world that seeks connection, then here it is. It's something that you love to do anyways. And it's almost like it's almost just returning them to who they are, you know? And now the second thing that I want to mention is when it comes to mindset, when we think of like mindset of people in our days and how we grow visually, physically, I believe that when you deny your own capacity to be a creator, if you, like all these kids is, I'm not an artist, the moment you deny that, something that's you're naturally gifted with, every part of your body is an instrument for creativity, yet you deny yourself that, how can you possibly acquire any other tool, mindset, or anything, and confidence in anything else when you deny the one thing that you're actually good at?
Yeah.
You know, you're born to create, you deny that, then if you accepted you're a creator, everything else would be from the reference of accepting and growing from it. And I just feel that, you know, we disconnect the two. And so bringing that together, connecting people back to art as a language, it's like me teaching you, let's teach the world art as a language. It would have a whole new meaning to how we connect, to how we use it as a way to document our current document what's going on. So the beginning of my journey, when I said I want to start doing art, I moved to Niagara Falls. I was with my boys, single as a mother, figuring it out. I took it, and I was, you know, basically on welfare. And so I took advantage of all the services offered, including taking a course first for business. So I took a business course. I did all my research, especially in the Niagara region. I said, you know, what is the market that I can tap into that is going to give me money as an artist? Because it's art or nothing. I'm not going to go do it the cheap way and be broke, starving artist at the same time. I'm going to do it big. And so it was when I connected this concept to the wineries and everything that comes out of it, I realized that in that research, one thing that I found was the Canadian government supports the acquisition of art, Canadian artists. So they support the acquisition of Canadian artists for the sake of preserving culture and heritage in Canada. So they say, business owners, go invest in artwork from Canadian artists because we need their art to preserve our history.
Yeah.
Hello, without that, we have no record of who we are.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So at the end of the day, artists are being, you know, but people don't know that. So if you think of someone, they're not going to buy art for an investment. Oh, let me preserve Canadian culture. They have no concept of how art even contributes to the preservation of our culture. And so bringing that awareness to people, saying, you know, Canadian artists, right now I'm documenting this, like, you know, 3D to 5D evolution. What we hear is that people going from like the 3D world to the 5D world, which just means people are going from living in their ego to now living in their spirit. You know, you live with not competition, but collaboration. It's just this concept of togetherness, because that's we need to work together. And often, all the artwork that I painted, whether it's for any of the leadership in our community, my biggest reason for documenting them, which is in the evolution calendar, is because they're the ones that are making a difference in Canada right now. So if I'm documenting anything worth it, what am I preserving? And I'm preserving Marcos Mendoza's legacy. I'm preserving the Armand Shafi's, all their legacies, that what they're doing to make a difference, I'm documenting it. And I tell them, it's like, don't worry, your art is going to end up in the history books. Because whether someone uses it or not, I'm creating the history book. I'm the one creating a story from what we did, so that 215, our children will know who we are, because we were the heroes of the world, let's say. And so I love that art has become that storytelling. But again, there's often a lack of knowing how powerful art is in a society. And so for me, when I say, you know, art is going to save the world, I believe that it will, because I believe that it will connect all countries. I believe that it will allow for the next generation to truly solve problems that are not going to continue to destroy the earth, but rather innovate, because their masterminds are created from a genius brain, because it's the creative faculty. That's the genius mind. So why not give everyone the capacity to think like a genius and act like one and do something about it and mastermind a genius group? And then, so it's just giving everyone the power to do something for themselves without being the one to actually create anything physically. So changing the world for me just means changing the concept and the value that the society has towards art so that we can raise a generation of artists, because they're scientists, they're engineers, they're doctors, they're philanthropists. All of them are creative thinkers. So why not adopt that mindset through understanding the creative imagination, which is it's a principle of success anyways, right? So, yeah.
Wow. I wanted to touch more on the evolution calendar, and you briefly touched on it. You were saying about this is what you meant by documenting.
Yes.
So with each month, you're like, if maybe take us through some of these
Yes.
months and what they represent.
Perfect. So because I was creating so much artwork for different live events, seminars, you name it, just book launches, I was doing live paintings. After a whole year, I was like, wow, I have all this artwork. And something said, hold on to it. Don't sell the artwork just yet, like just retain it. By the end of the year, I said, you know what? I need to, this artwork's created for the people, with the people, for the people. But yet, nobody has access to anything that will allow them to remember that day, which was so transformational for some people. And so what I did was, how do I give as much art to people as possible? And that's where the calendar sort of was an idea that had been settling for some time in my heart, like something I've been wanting to do, a calendar based off of 12 chapters, 12 months, 12 cosmos, like just 12 horoscopes, like all this 12, 13 kind of was really powerful in my head. So I did that. I said, let me create a calendar, which is basically for $20, gifting as much 13 original prints through the evolution calendar. And in the process, highlighting the leaders that I did the paintings for, giving them a bit of a stage, allowing them to be communicated through the visual language, which is the art. So it's not like people are hearing about it through words or anything. It's literally the artwork was the journey to that message, to that experience. And so every year now I'm able to select people who have had personal, profound impact in my life. And through wanting to remind people and anchor them to use their creative imagination, to exhaust their creative imagination, every month is like a new chapter, which is a new sort of concept that allows you to unlock the creative imagination. So each month is a chapter that's linked to a painting that was supporting, some powerful person in my life. But the most important thing is that the artwork is the language that is teaching you a lesson, that is infusing some sort of, spiritual connection to your heart from mine, but again, from the collective, because the artwork was of the collective. And then it really just connects everyone. And so the calendar is now a guide. It turned into a guide, which, like I said, whether it's for children or for adults, if you read every month, there's a new sentence. And basically it gives you, a little affirmation for the week to say, you know what? We are all born with equal opportunity to imagine and cultivate a genius mind. Remember that. We are all born with equal opportunity to cultivate a genius mind. We are all born with equal opportunity to cultivate a genius mind. So, and the tool to that is drawing, is art, is painting, is you want to cultivate a genius mind. You must do what geniuses do, and they draw. They create, they do something. Yeah. And so this is hopefully a reminder, and the artwork is the anchor, is the visual anchor that anchors the person to the experience that they remember seeing it in. So yeah, it's a really dear project for me, and it's just my way of giving back.
So this one here, I would just like to know where the inspiration came, because if these were all done at, some of them were done at like events, you're doing live paintings. Some of them you had, a specific person in mind. Like this one here, you got, several what looks like angels with wings. I don't know, maybe just give us some background on where the inspiration came from that.
So with this one specifically, this one was for a Mo Mondays, specifically in Waterloo. So as I was painting this painting, I actually had just that same day, within like the hour, I had gone through a breakup. And the theme and the topic of everyone's like, the topic of the Mo Mondays was suicide prevention. And so between the breakup and then all the sad stories, I just felt this sense of like this dreary energy, which really went into this painting, which is why you see a lot of the rain brush. It's just like rain strokes, just sadness. And originally these were just silhouettes of people. They didn't have the wings. So I created the painting. It was raffled off and gifted away to a friend who was actually the one who organized this event. And as he had it, he said, Evelyn, I really love this painting, and if you're going to feature it in the calendar, if you're going to feature it in the calendar, can you just make it a little bit happier, because it kind of makes me think of the X Factor soundtrack, because it looked like aliens. And I said, sure, let me take it. And I thought, how beautiful is that a year later, when I got the painting back, I said, okay, what does this painting now mean? What could I do to make it more beautiful? And when I looked at all the people, and I looked at the sadness, and I looked at where I was at that point, and then where I had come in, along with my whole community, because we had all, everyone in our community shares a story to save a life, ultimately. And I love that, because everyone becomes their own sort of archangel, they're kind of their own hero. And so this turned it around to say, through the stories, they save lives. And so it turned in from a dreary image to what was, I think, an evolution over a year of people going from, just being brave enough to share their story to now being on stage changing lives. So, yeah, that's what that painting represents. It was a journey.
Wow. So originally the wings weren't even there.
They weren't even there about a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. This one that we have propped up in the corner, I'm interested to know about that, because you had mentioned before we went on air that this is when you let go of the need for detail. So maybe explain that, because I mean, literally in the sense of detail, like maybe I can't see eyelashes or fingers or stuff like that, but I feel like there's a lot of detail in this.
Yeah. So before I got into this whole personal development, art, transformation, evolution of conscious mind, I was an artist who was competitive. I was trying to be the best. I wanted to be the best. I painted out of ego, and was always just trying to one up other artists by using my background and my knowledge and expertise in contemporary arts, that I could be the best. And I found that was really stressful art, because I wanted it to be perfect, and it really never was, because art is really not supposed to be perfect. Well, at least not all art. It's supposed to be nice, but not perfect. So finally, when I said, I'm going to let go of this of any details, I don't want to do structure, I don't want to paint specific things that have to look beautiful, including people. I just said, I just want to express whatever comes to me in movement with shapes. And so I started to really let go on the canvas. I started just doing circles and waves, and when I thought, okay, evolution, I came up with the name Evolution as a program that will be used to use the art process to evolve creative thinking. This painting started to come to me, and you should definitely link the time lapse of this. I'll share the time lapse of this, because the time lapse shows the process of how this evolved, and it never looked like when it started off. I had wings and all these things, like I had crazy stuff, and the end result, I was like, I would have never imagined that it was going to go there. And it's the process that I love sharing. I think it's the process of evolution that you learn the most, not the final outcome. But when this one started coming together, this specifically one, for me, it's not very much details, but I silhouetted two people. But ultimately, this one represents the brain. This is the right and the left hemisphere. This is coherency. This is when both sides come together in harmony. And I feel like, when the right brain, the left brain, you could say masculine, feminine, when they come together, they create the perfect harmony for your brain to function at a high level. And at the same time, when we think of people and connection, this does look like two people coming together to create a mastermind. So they're masterminding. So it could be a couple, it could be a male and a female, but it's also the power of the mastermind. So it has, quite a few layers to this, but it is ultimately the evolution of consciousness. And layers literally and in theory too, because I know, like, what was the first stroke? Like, where I just wonder where you start. Did you paint, like, do you paint the whole background? Yeah. Like, where, like, I don't even know where I would have started. Yeah, the time lapse will show that, but for me, what I just did was visualized whatever came to me, and I just saw two people like hovering together. And so the beginning was just almost outlining their overall silhouettes and then brushing around that.
Okay.
And then over it and sideways and up and down.
Yeah.
And then it became like all directions. This one made no sense. I don't even know how it came, but I just, in the process of channeling ideas, I said, what does evolution mean? How do I capture this word evolution and make it visible for people to see that it is a process of alchemy. It's the alchemy of a creative mind, is, you know, the right and the left hemisphere, this sort of infinity loop of flow between both hemispheres of the brain to create these genius ideas.
Yeah.
And so I said, but and then the next level to that, once we have our own harmony of mastery, when we get together with others, like you and I, you know, we can sit here and mastermind how to change the world, because we think at a high level. And when both of our brains connect at that level, you tap into a third brain, you tap into the collective, you know, brain of consciousness. And now you're creating ideas that are going to truly save the world. You know, they're going to save the planet because you're connected to what the planet is through, you know, all senses and all the other things that come. So, yeah.
Woo. I want to draw something. No, you know what? For me, I used to draw a lot, and as you can see, I got some permanent art on me that will be there until it's all saggy and you can't tell what it is anymore. But I have a real passion for art too, and I thought, you know, growing up, I was always told I should be a tattoo artist or I should be an artist, and I tried drawing stuff, but it was that. That wanting it to be perfect, right? That I couldn't. I mean, even now, like when I draw with my kids, and I, you know, and my daughter, my oldest daughter, she'll start to draw something, and if it's not perfect or it doesn't, if she's trying to, you know, replicate, you know, she'll look at a drawing and try to, you know, recreate it herself. If it doesn't look exactly what she's looking at, she'll give up and she won't want it she won't want to do it anymore. And you know, it's being an adult and kind of, you know, realizing that it really doesn't matter, right? Like, I don't really get too hard on myself, but when I draw, I still struggle with that, where I'm like, does this really look like the Ninja Turtles? You know, or like whatever it is I'm drawing, I still struggle with, you know, is anybody else are they going to know what this is? Are they going to be able to understand what I was trying to say, or you know, what I was trying to portray? So when I think about drawing, when I think about art, even still listening to you talk, I'm having these, what would I call them? Just like earlier when you were saying how without art, like we really would like cease to exist. You know, it takes a creative mind and an imaginative mind to design a building, a vehicle, sidewalks, like where they're gonna go. Like you require somewhat of an artistic, initiative to be able to do that. So. I guess if I don't know, what would you say to somebody who is really, you know, maybe they're listening, we're you know, X amount of minutes into our conversation, and they're like, you know what, they grab a pad of paper and they want to start drawing. Like they want to just like, where does someone start?
Yeah.
Do they start with a doodle? Do they start with a coloring book? Like what? Because I understand that it's not, they're not maybe going to create a masterpiece and sell it for $1 bazillion, but it'll help them tap into that creative mind and the imagination to be able to, like you said earlier, imagine their way out of a bad situation where they start to think, you know, anticipating things going right rather than things going wrong. And how would you suggest them starting to use art to be able to have that breakthrough?
The best way to start, because it's just my process, so I'll share my process with someone. It's just really how you, often, same thing, I look at a blank paper and I'm like, what do I even do? And I don't even have a subject today, I need to let loose. And just starting to draw circles, just like circles, repetitive circles, overlapping circles, big circles, small circles, change the rotation of circles, take your left hand, do it with left hand and right hand, switch it up. Because when you start tricking your body and you start doing things that it's not used to, it kind of goes into this sense where it just opens up a little. Like your mind starts to open up, and in this space of openness is where often an idea gets planted. And then you can, I got an idea, and then you can start trying to draw that idea or doodle it or Google it. Google a picture of what it is that you're thinking of and trace or copy what you see. I find that often, you know, that's just how you can start practicing your comfort, you know, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You just doodle, sketch, but for the most part, draw circles, draw lines. It doesn't have to be a subject, because this creative thinking, this creativity comes through just the process itself. It's like, you know, just lie down and you're going to feel good. You don't have to try to feel good. You're just going to feel good. The same thing is with just drawing circles. Naturally, what's going to start to come up is this sense of, you know, calmness and then ideas are, allow those ideas to go. Allow these ideas to, process through you as you're drawing these circles. And then you're going to start to notice the circles are going to change. They're going to become, ovals, or they're going to become, bitter, or something's going to really reflect how you feel, but allow yourself to see that. And then things will just start coming up, fill a whole page with circles, fill a whole page with lines, start to, just not think specifically of any one thing. And that's the same thing I would do if someone has a canvas and some paint. In fact, that's even better. If you take a canvas and some colors, choose the primary colors or your favorite color, and literally just start doing circles on a canvas or little jaggeds, like whatever comes to you. The thing is that it's not supposed to make sense. That's the point.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to make something that's senseful. If you're trying to get into the right creative mind, get out of the logical brain.
Yeah.
Stop trying to overthink it. Stop trying to make it something specific. Stop trying to do anything. Just do it. And in that process, the flow will start to unlock itself.
Yeah.
The flow will start to come.
So it's like falling in love with the process and not the end result.
Yes.
Don't focus on what it's going to look like upon completion. Just focus on the journey of getting there.
Yes, because you know what? If it's sometimes nice to have a vision, say, okay, I want to get to this destination, you start drawing it. And then there's another thing that for the sake of, separate the two things. Separate drawing and doodling for the sake of just the process, like you said. And when it comes to saying, okay, I want to master a visualization, do the work to get a good visualization down. So, Google the reference of what you want to draw. Don't stress yourself if you can't think of what it is. There's one thing to draw what you see, and then to draw directly from the imagination is a practice skill.
Yeah.
You can't just draw from the imagination. Sure, you'll draw a cat from your mind and it'll look funny, but if you look at a cat and draw it, it's a different outcome.
Yeah.
So I would encourage people to just start with looking at what they see first. Observe the things around you.
Yeah.
Notice the life around you. Draw that apple, draw that pencil, draw your child. Just doodle whatever's around you once you do those circles.
Yeah.
And over time, you'll find that, and this is what I say going back to full circle to when I was a child. When I was just young, observing my environment, exploring my world. In my age, we used to run around in forests and go on bike rides, and we were always outdoors.
Yeah.
And in those visual references of what I would see, it would enrich in my art. My artwork would expand because my imagination was growing in the experiences that I literally challenged myself with. And that's why I was very brave when I was young, because I was able to just I wanted to absorb more life, to be able to create it. But it always came from me directly tracing or drawing what I saw. There was no, let me draw from my imagination, because that's really hard to do unless you draw every day. Then one day you have this breakthrough idea, this new business that you want to build, this new family that you want to create, or this new idea. And because you've drawn so much, you can draw that idea out. And that's your anchor. That's the thing that every day when you look at, you say, that's where I'm going. Why? Because my soul drew that. I channeled it from the creative imagination. It didn't come from the synthetic mind, which is, to be honest, that's another concept, synthetic creative. In a nutshell, I'll tell you one thing. A synthetic imagination will only think of things that it's ever seen before. It will never think past what it saw.
Yeah.
A creative imagination will be able to think of ideas beyond the box, download an idea into its soul, and with that connection from the soul, you're going to want that for the rest of your life. A synthetic idea is, hey, I like that house. It's really pretty. I like the pillars.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you see another house. Oh, I like those stairs. I want that house instead. Synthetic minds will jump from one thing to the other because it doesn't connect to the heart what it wants. It's just the mind. Oh, I like that. I like that. That's the ego. So when you operate from a creative imagination, the ideas that you receive are literally from God, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You get
That
ideas
totally
directly
does.
from God.
Yeah.
When he connects, when he sees that thought came from a deep desire that your heart beats for, boom, you'll get the next breakthrough. But if you're thinking of synthetic imagination, you'll never connect to the source of God to give you that life-changing idea because it's recognizing a synthetic process. This isn't real. This isn't what you want. You're just wanting what you see in front of you. But what about there's more than that. There's more. And that's what the art does, is it taps into the part of your brain that understands what it wants. And then you just go for it.
Okay. All right. So before it slips my mind, I just wanted to maybe get you to, what your thoughts on how do we get people to stop thinking that you need skill to be creative? like I think because even as I'm thinking, I'm like, I could do that. Like, and I understand totally what you're saying about drawing from the imagination, because that was the hardest part for me. It's like I would try and do something, and just the perspective of which my superhero was flying through the air. He had to make his fist was closer to your eyes than his face, so to make it look big. Yeah, you know what I mean, like. And so it was very difficult for me to draw from my imagination. So I was always looking at my comics, or I was looking at another photo, and I was just kind of drawing it and translating it from what I seen onto the page. And even still being, I'm not going to tell people how old I am, but it's just it's hard for me to get away from, okay, I don't have the skills to do that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of the biggest things that keeps me out of my creative. Like, I've written music, I've drawn, I used to dance. It's really hard. The joints are they're aching a bit, I'm a little stiff in my old age. But being able to express myself artistically like that, it's hard to, get past that. Well, do I have enough skill? Mm-hmm. And what you were saying about the practice and the process and everything, I know that repetition is the mother of skill. So I think the more that people do just draw and fall in love with that process, that the skill will come. Yes. I don't think people are lacking skill. Mm-hmm. It's just practicing the skill. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I answered my own question there, but I'm just like, people that may want to just, begin this journey of being able to tap into the creative, just for the simple purpose of navigating through life with their imagination, and again, not with the visual painting or drawing or anything like that. Just like you said earlier about getting through hardships, being able to imagine the best case scenario. Because I don't think that takes skill, but it would take practice to be able to tap into that creative. So. What do we do? Like,
well, it's hard because we all want to be good at stuff. I mean, I think it's our
I feel
ego that
give up right away when they're not the best.
No, exactly. And I've had this comment to parents. I say, go. How does your child draw? Go draw with them. Mm-hmm. And they say, oh no, my daughter's a really good artist, but I said, what do you say to your daughter when for her to go draw? Do you encourage her to do it by herself? She goes, yeah. And some parents, they don't really like it. They're not picked up. I go, well, I know how they'll fall in love with it if they see you do it.
Yeah.
And the parents like, well, I don't draw. I can't. I'm not good. And I say, what do you think you're telling your child when you tell them that that basically when you say you don't want to do it because you're not good?
Yeah.
You're telling your child that they have to be good at something in order to do it. And you're robbing them of the whole purpose of what the art is. The art is to practice the creative imagination, to practice the creative thinking.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's, when people are thinking they have to be good at it, well, number one, figure out what you're drawing for. If you're just drawing to release ideas, no one else is going to see them. So who cares how it looks? Just draw for the sake of you looking at what's in your mind. Yeah. Get it out. Draw it. You'll notice one thing. You'll notice what your focus is. You'll notice what you want. And you'll notice what distracts you. Some of those things will come up in the art. Now, if you want to draw because you want to be good at it, well, do what it takes to be good at anything. Practice and learn how to do it. So number one, the reason why most people struggle to draw anything three-dimensional is because they don't understand the three-dimensional planes on how it sits in the world. Yeah. If you can't see past one dimension is looking directly in front of you and seeing a brick wall. 2 dimensions is seeing 2 sides of that wall. 3 dimensions is being able to see the top, the side, and the other side. Now, that only happens with glass walls. Mm-hmm. You're never going to see the top of a building when you're looking at the bottom. You're going to at most see 2 sides. So most of us see in 2 dimensions. If you understood that there's up to like 7, 8 dimensions of how the world sits and all those sides of those things that you can see, then you'll be able to draw something in that dimension. You'll be able to draw every single side of that anatomy because it sits in a unique dimension. So if you want to learn how to draw details, you need to learn how to draw dimensions. So for me, it's like that's just learning art. That's now taking it to learning perspective. Learn 1, 2, 3 point perspectives. Then you have more detailed drawing. But again, why are you drawing? The average person that I'm sure hearing this, you're not trying to draw to teach anyone or trying to be a master. Right now, if you're thinking of doing it, it's because you realize that maybe you need to unlock a part of your creativity that's been like knocking at your door.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm thinking is how to help people unlock that creativity. And just a thought that crossed my mind when you said, people often think that they have to be good at something to start, and I can relate to that with even going to the gym. Mm-hmm. You feel like you got to be strong and you got to be fit before you can go to the gym. So then you got to think, well, why are you even going to the gym? So this is the same thing is with this art. So I'm really just thinking, like how the average person listening to this, they're not going to draw because they're, I don't know, maybe they will, but it's just to help them unlock that creative and that imagination that that will help them, just get through the everyday life.
Even for, and this could be for now anyone who has a corporation or a business and want to understand how could they use art to connect with their employees. Sometimes if you realize if your employees are not going in the same direction as you, maybe they're following the wrong vision. So sometimes to do an exercise with your group of employees and say, everybody draw the vision of this company. Where are we going with this company? And everyone will draw the vision of the company. Through those drawings, you'll be able to identify if everyone's on the same page or not. Some people may have a completely different drawing, which means in that moment you identify the disconnect. You want to connect everyone to the same page, give them one visual of what the outcome is, and now everyone jumps onto that page. So there's a lot of exercises that people can do, couples. I love when couples do this. I say, draw your dream life. And you'll see some couples have the complete opposite vision.
That's a good one. I like that.
And they look at each other and they say, oh my God, we don't want the same thing. Holy crap, what are we doing here? Are we faking this relationship? I've actually know a friend who the marriage dissolved because they realized we've been operating from the wrong place.
Wow.
When we connect to our heart, we don't belong.
That's actually scary. Maybe not everyone should do that.
Well, it's been very difficult for him to have that acceptance because his whole life has changed. But the one thing that he can't deny is the gratitude of seeing the truth of who he was and who they were and how that has allowed him to live authentically the way he should. And both of them to give them the permission to say, this doesn't work. Let's live authentically the way we should. And let's go for that dream that we have. You want that, go for it. You want that, go for it. No one should be in the way. No one should get in the way of getting that. And the beautiful thing, what happens is when I've seen this, when some couples have the exact same vision, that's harmony, that's beauty. And you know that they're together because they desire the exact, to the detail, same thing.
Yeah.
And I've seen that, and it's been beautiful.
Wow.
But it's real. It's real. It's reality. People are getting a real reference to what is going on inside that we don't talk about. And that's more powerful because I don't have to sit there and say, oh, do you see what you want? I say, let's talk about what you drew.
Yeah.
And what does that say? They're like, well, this is what I really wanted my whole life since I was blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what are you doing to go towards that? Nothing? Then let's talk about why. And then it opens up doors to reality checks and people self-reflect. And more importantly, they self-actualize. So. Wow.
Okay. Well, where like those events that you host? Why don't we just touch on that? Do you have any coming up? Like where? Let's tell the people where they can find you, where they can enroll in some of these workshops that will help them come to these realizations. Because I think that. Hearing about it, it's something I know I wanted to go to one that you had in the past. I'm not sure if it was a Valentine's Day one that you had. Was there a couples one you had around Valentine's Day?
I've had a few of the in-person.
I mean, we're coming up on that, so I don't know if you have something like that, but maybe let them know. We're also going to plug it into the website as well, where you can find Evelyn and what she's up to and stuff. But
perfect.
Maybe an upcoming event. If we have the couples thing, I really like what you said about the employees. Couples, I mean, doing that, having a group of people that you want to build with, work with, do whatever with. Wow, I never even thought of that. To say, let's see where you think this is going to go.
Yeah.
And then you can find the disconnect and the harmony and which I never would have thought to use art that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I said to people coming up, I'm like, man, stay tuned for this podcast. It's going to be crazy because we're going to find out how to incorporate art and how art really you can apply to all aspects of life.
Yes.
Which I think is incredible.
Yeah,
I think it's insane. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, ultimately right now, the most accessible thing that I have is just I'm doing monthly webinars where I literally have broken down my evolution workshop and I've put it online for 2 hours. So we just kind of go through some exercises and it's the same thing. We get to share what it's like. But more importantly, you get access to the exercises that are literally unlocking your mind. Like you're going through this process where you're like, when you talk about it after or when you look at it later, you're saying you're seeing so much about yourself that you become self-aware. And then likely we're going to be on this journey where every month I literally, same thing, webinar, we regroup. We say, what did you discover from the last exercises? Because now that you've implemented it for a whole month, And this is the thing, is implementation is really important. So when I give someone an exercise, it's important to do it, to feel it, and then have your own perspective of what you got from it.
Which reminds me, I have to get to that one that you had just posted. You had an idea, and I responded to it, and you're like, take a pencil and a piece of paper and draw a line, or whatever it was that you said to do. I'll have to go back to it, but I do want to follow through with that because I am interested. And to actually, if there are exercises that people can do to actually begin the process of unlocking their mind, I think it would be great to have, definitely to tune into the monthly webinars. I know I will, especially after this conversation.
Thank you.
Because I definitely feel like I could use some unlocking.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, the monthly webinar, and they can find that even on my website. It's evabaileyart.com.
Yeah.
And it's you'll find a lot of information on there where they can see some of that stuff. But that exercise that I came up with the other day was really powerful. It was, and maybe on the recording, what the exercise is I ask you to take a piece of paper and a pencil and write a word.
Yep.
Pause. Do that. Play. When you go back to it, why don't you try it right now?
I'm going to do it right now.
So
I'm going to do it right now.
Any piece of paper, it's a very quick exercise, and I suggest everybody do this. So draw
That
anywhere.
means grab a pen, guys. You're in this too. You can't see, but these guys behind the camera, they're making all this happen, and they're going to participate.
Awesome.
So I'm going to write any word.
A word
First
anywhere.
word that comes to mind.
Anything, it doesn't matter. Perfect. Everybody got the word? Good. Now put a box around that. Frame it with a box. Nice. Okay. Now.
That was a nice box.
Yeah. Now draw a box. A new box.
A new box.
Draw a new box. And now draw the word in the box. So what was the difference between the first and the second? Like, what did you feel? Did you feel any difference between the first one and the second?
I felt like I tried real hard to make that box as good as that one. and I felt my printing is a little nicer in the second box. Yeah, same? Yeah.
So
I feel like I tried to make it more,
Now, let me ask you a question. Which way would you prefer to live life? The first way or the second way?
First way.
So
the first way just was like, I did it.
It was
Second
free.
one, I was like, oh man, she's watching me now. I got to make sure I do this box perfect. And I have to make sure that I actually spell this right.
And the writing looks better. So the first one is, I was doing that the other day. I was doing notes. And the freedom, so the second one is the concept of what life is like when you live in a box. So when you live in a box, you're restrained. You're not as free. You're overthinking.
Like that's exactly what I felt
you're
like.
You're overthinking.
Writing
you're stressed
into that
out.
box.
You're like...
I'm sweating. I'm like, I was trying really hard. She's like, draw the second box. I'm like, okay, that's easy enough. I'm going to try and make it the same. And then I really tried to make it fit in the box.
You see? And
wow.
So that's what I was like, oh my God, breakthrough. And that happened when I was doing it. So this is an exercise I would share on my online workshop. It's just simple, do an exercise and what did you get from that? And that's exactly what it is. The first one, we all want to live life that way. Freedom, you create your own boundaries. The second life is mostly, the second one is how many people live. Yeah. And I encourage you and invite you to start living outside the box.
I definitely like that better, like how I could write the word and then put a box around it.
Yeah.
This box, that was a BS, actually.
Did you guys notice that? Yeah.
How'd you feel about it? Oh, thumbs up. He don't have a mic, so I'll translate for him. He thought that was great. What about you, Adam? Yeah, same, right? I felt exactly how you explained it.
Yeah.
I was stressed out about that second box. I really was. I was like, why did she ask me to draw the second? And then you're like, do the same one. Oh, that's boring. Just put the same word in there, and it really stressed me out. So.
Yeah, and that's how we live, right? So this concept is, just... Nobody likes to live with already, imagine trying to build with a barricade already around you. Yeah. Create your foundation and then see where you're at and then create that comfort zone. Yeah. So it was just little exercises like that I find.
And that just came to you like that?
The other night when I did that post, I was like, oh my God. And because I was doing it, I was making notes and I squared it. I was like, oh. And then the second part, I was doing level 1, level 2. And then I did that opposite. I did the box first. And then I was like, oh, I'm all stressed out about how I had to write my letter in the box. I'm like, whoa. If I felt that immediate anxiety, stress, I bet you anyone else would feel the same thing.
My heart's pounding out of my chest though. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So I just want in closing, I'm just going to one more question. So you have the webinars right now. Are you available to have, say, an employer, right, who wants to find out where his employees are with the vision of their company or something? That's something that They could reach
Of
out to
course.
you, and they could, they
Yeah.
schedule you to come
Yeah.
in. You bring the canvases
Yeah.
or whatever.
I
and-
would do an in-person workshop for evolution for corporate and for private parties and education as well.
Nice.
Because I find that especially like corporate building or just building a culture or building a sense of being on the same page for any company. I've surveyed this
Yeah.
and I've asked business people, what did you get from this workshop?
Yeah.
And they said, XYZ, a company could really benefit when it comes to aligning visions,
Yeah.
getting on the same page. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm thankful that you came today.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I learned a lot today just by talking to you. So I'm sure that people listening are going to feel the same. I just want to thank you,
Thank you.
tremendously for coming and giving us your time
Yes.
and giving us that insight, man. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to get a coloring book. No, I am. I'm going to start doodling, and I'm
Yeah.
definitely doing this first. I ain't doing all the in the box shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to be me.
Yeah.
But no, we'll make sure that we plug that in onto the website and that they know where to find you.
Thank you.
And again, the same thing I said to Nico is I feel like this would be part one of an ongoing series
Yes.
that we could have with
Perfect.
Evelyn Bailey.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
I thank you for your
Yes,
time.
I appreciate
and,
it.
Yeah, I can't wait for next time.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, thank you, and it's a pleasure and honor to have you help me spread this information to our generation. I think everyone needs it, so thank you for giving me the platform to do so.
Sweet. Sweet.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank
that's
you.
a wrap.
Woo!
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning into the Tide Pod podcast. I want to give a special thanks to our guest, Evelyn Bailey. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Truly inspiring message. I think that those people tuned in will feel the same. Stay tuned to tidepod.com, where you can find out all the information on Evelyn. And stay tuned for next week's podcast. Thanks for coming out.